I called you today not only to be able to provide update with respect to this circumstance, as we have been regularly communicating through the media to our residents, and I want to be clear that that is the primary concern. It should always be our first priority to deal with how we respond to this crisis, how we deal with communication so people can get the information that they need. However, I have decided to go slightly off script from the way that I typically handle things to address a few statements that have been made and a few reports, because I believe that misinformation is dangerous. I think the activities that we witnessed on January 6th emphasize that to a greater extent than maybe in recent history in a way that we've known. I think it is important that our residents know that the crisis that we are in the midst of was an act of God, not through incompetence, not through failure to act from any individual, not from a failure to act from the administration. We offer as proof of the fact that this is an act of God is you just simply have to look at all of the places that this weather affected and the fact that communities are experiencing the same trauma that our residents are experiencing today. Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas, Canton, Mississippi, Vicksburg, Shreveport, Louisiana, and many more. There was an act of God, extreme weather, that sent old systems into havoc and has caused this trauma for our residents. As I said yesterday, I understand that most people don't care how a watch works. They just want to be able to tell time. And so they look at our administration, they look at the people in charge and say, listen, you know, when I can't bathe, when I can't take my medicine, when I'm dealing with dialysis, when I'm dealing with all of these things, I just need a solution because I'm in trouble and I'm in pain. And so that's where we try to focus. I've said that in moments of crisis, the first casualty is trust. And so that is why I'm calling up not only to our media, but I'm calling up to those individuals that we have to work with, our council people, right? And it isn't helpful when we're in the midst of a crisis and we make it a political discussion or we make it a fight. And I often hear the rhetoric, I hear the things that are said, the outlandish statements, and I ignore them time and time again. First, because I know that someone has to be the grown-up in the room. Secondly, I do it because it is a distraction from the issues which truly face our community. To the extent that it is relevant, communication with the governor. Called the governor's office from my office phone. I have chronicled time and time again through the COVID circumstance, through many times, that it has been a challenge for me to communicate with him, right? And I say that the way that I often communicate when I can't reach him, and what has become my pattern, is to call his chief of staff, because his chief of staff and I had a prior relationship in terms of communication prior to him taking office. And so that is usually the person that I can get in contact with. And so what took place after that is I learned that he, the chief of staff, is dealing with a personal circumstance. He texted me and he apologized for that, right? Also, I want to make it clear that, you know, I have chronicled my efforts over time to reach the governor. And so we don't want to go down that road, and I don't really want to make it a fight because we need the governor, right? We need their support. We need the state, and we have been in communication with MEMA. We have been in communication with those agencies that help support. So this is not an effort to go back and forth. We're good there, right? We're still trying to work together. We're still trying to resolve the things that are taking place. Once again, as I look at the severity of what people are dealing with, I understand. I was without water in my household. I still don't have full water pressure. The people that are around me still don't have water. And so we understand what is taking place. We understand how our residents feel. But when we have council people that distract from the point, when we have council people that act as if this administration isn't responding, first of all, I'm willing to say that this administration has probably dealt with more crises than any administration in the city's history. Whether we're talking about a school takeover that we didn't have our dear councilman from Ward 3 helping us with, right? Whether we're talking about the first winter storm that took place in 2018 and there was no effort or no support and no communication there. When we're talking about the Siemens ordeal that we've been dealing with, and he was telling residents to cut the wires of our meters and no support there, or trying to push contracts to his friend, or trying to get them involved in the legal fight. Whether we're talking about the flood that took place. No communication, no support. In fact, as I talk about communication issues, I can sooner get in contact with the governor than I can the council person for Ward 3. What it takes is for me to literally go to his house in order to talk to him about how I want to help his residents. That is what takes place. Those are the facts. And so I stay away from that because I don't want a tit for tat. I don't want to have these non-productive conversations about councilperson versus the mayor. I want to talk about how we help people. You can't stand in front of a camera and tell people how you've given out 10 cases of water. I've personally given out 10 pallets of water, more than 10 pallets of water. And I didn't do so with the media. Now, if you saw me on camera doing it, it was because the media found me. It was because the media called me. And it has been us who have been going to residents, to elderly and senior homes in Councilman Stokes' ward. Literally not only delivering water to them, but delivering it to their doorstep, often delivering it into their homes. Not calling the media to see that, right? But because we understand, because we have compassion for what is taking place, because we are doing everything humanly possible to restore water and to help people out. And there comes a time where we have to get rid of the rhetoric. There comes a time where we have to be honest, where you have to say that it's problematic that you vote against a fire station in your ward. It's problematic when you vote against school bond referendums that help our children when they don't have the facilities that they need. When you're not helpful on any front, when we come up with a plan to save our school district, and once it is all solved, you come in just to stir the pot. That's problematic. And I am passionate today. I am passionate because I care, and the moment that the passion leaves me, that is when I don't need to serve our residents. And so I'll finish my remarks by a quote that I saw, and I just thought it was too appropriate to let go by. It was Gandhi who said, "There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who do the work and those who take the credit. You should try to be a part of the first group because there's less competition." Having meetings that really have no effect on what we're trying to accomplish. Doing things just to give the appearance of work. Calling a press conference every Sunday afternoon to pretend as if you're doing work when you don't show up for any council meeting, when you don't show up for special meetings, when you're not in your office, when you don't talk to the mayor, then all you're trying to do is take the credit. Your people deserve more than that. The city deserves more than that. For 30 years, the city deserves more than that. I ask that as you cover this, you cover the entire statement that I have put out today, so that everybody understands the frustration and understands that it was not my desire to come before you and vent. It was not my desire to have this back and forth between a council person and myself, because I understand that ultimately that is not our priority. That is not what people are concerned with today. But it doesn't help people when we're having these battles. And so I think it's important that we understand once again, in moments of crisis, the first casualty is trust.